The crystal hall shined like liquid diamonds under the twin suns. Its floor was smooth and glowing, polished every morning by human workers. Today, one of them, a quiet janitor named Ethan, moved carefully with his cleaning droid, wiping away spilled drink pods and glitter dust. His uniform was simple gray, his eyes calm and distant. Above him, laughter filled the air. Dozens of alien students in bright uniforms sat around a floating table, enjoying their midday break. Their leader, Princess Velra, leaned back in her chair, her silver hair glowing under the skylight. Her violet eyes were sharp, playful, and cruel. "Look at him," she said, pointing lazily at Ethan. "The human thinks he's invisible." The other aliens laughed. Ethan didn't look up. He kept cleaning, his droid humming softly beside him. Velra snapped her fingers. "Hey, janitor, you missed a spot." Ethan looked at the floor where she pointed. There was nothing there. Still, he walked over and bent down to clean it. The laughter grew louder. One of the alien boys with scales of blue and silver whispered, "Maybe he can't see properly without a leash." The hall echoed with laughter again. Ethan said nothing. He kept working, slow and silent, but Velra wasn't done. She picked up her glass of glowing nectar and tipped it over. The liquid splashed across the floor right where Ethan had cleaned a moment ago. "Oops," she said in a sweet voice. "You better clean it fast, human."
Before someone important slips, the group roared with amusement. Ethan stopped.
His hand tightened around the cleaning tool. For a moment, his face lifted and his eyes met hers. Something in his gaze made her heart stop for a second. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was calm, too calm. A kind of quiet strength that didn't belong to someone like him. Velra forced a smirk. "What are you staring at? Did I give you permission to look at me?" Ethan's voice was low but clear. No permission needed to see arrogance. The hall went silent. The laughter froze in the air. Even the hum of the air vents seemed to pause. Velra blinked, caught off guard. "What did you say?" Ethan straightened slowly. He was tall, taller than she remembered. His gray uniform caught the light, and for a strange moment, he looked like someone standing on a battlefield instead of a floor. "I said," he repeated, "you may have a crown, but it doesn't make you wise." The silence deepened. Gasps rippled around the room. No one spoke to the princess that way. Velra's cheeks burned. Her wings flared open, shimmering violet membranes trembling with anger. "Do you know who I am?" she shouted. Ethan's expression didn't change. "I do." "Then kneel," she ordered. "Right now." Ethan looked at her, really looked, and then said softly, "You will regret those words one day." His tone wasn't loud, but it carried through the hall like a whisper made of steel. Velra froze. For the first time, she couldn't find words. Something about him, the way he stood, the weight in his voice, and it felt wrong. Like he didn't belong to the class of workers at all. Before she could reply, a deep hum filled the air. The crystal floor flickered with strange light, a pulse of golden energy that ran right beneath Ethan's feet. Everyone looked down in confusion. "What is that?" someone muttered. Ethan looked too, his face calm again, almost sad. He turned off his cleaning droid and started walking away. Velra's heart pounded, but pride wouldn't let her stop him. "Run away, human," she shouted after him. "That's what your kind does best." He stopped at the door, looked back once, and said quietly, "We only run when we have nothing worth protecting." Then he walked out. The hall stayed silent for several seconds. Then whispers began, one soft and nervous. One alien whispered, "Did you feel that energy?" Another said, "The scanners blinked red for a second." And somewhere across the academy, the internal network buzzed with a strange notification. Alert. Unknown royal signature detected. Designation, human origin. Velra didn't know what it meant, not yet. But deep inside, for the first time in her perfect royal life, she felt something she had never felt before. Fear. That night, the shining towers of the academy were silent. The stars above shimmered like frozen fire, far below the glowing spires, deep under the halls where the royal students slept. A single maintenance light flickered in the tunnels. Ethan walked slowly through the metal corridors, his cleaning droid trailing behind him. But tonight he wasn't cleaning. He stopped near a storage room door, an old one marked Access Restricted. He looked around once to make sure no one was watching, then pressed his thumb against the rusty scanner. The light turned green. The door opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, the room was filled with old machines, forgotten communication devices from the ancient wars. Dust floated in the air like ghostly snow. Ethan moved to the center and pulled a small silver chip from under his sleeve. He inserted it into the terminal. The room glowed blue. A hologram flickered to life, the image of an older woman in a military coat. Her voice came soft but firm. "Commander Ethan, you have been silent too long." Ethan's face changed. The quiet janitor was gone. The man standing in the blue light looked like a soldier, calm, sharp, and unshakable. "I couldn't risk exposure," he said. "The royal family watches everything." The hologram nodded. "Understandable. But the signal we traced confirms it. The Empress's court carries the same ancient code, the one that belongs to the Protectorate bloodline." "You were right. The truth was buried." Ethan's hand tightened. "So it's true. The empire that enslaved us was once saved by us." "Yes," the woman replied. "Long ago, humans protected their ancestors, but they rewrote history to hide their shame. Now they believe you are lesser because they fear what you are." Ethan looked down, silent for a long moment. "And the princess?" The hologram flickered. "Her DNA matches the original bloodline that was saved by your father's fleet. She doesn't know the truth. None of them do. You must stay close to her. Protect her. When the Empress realizes who you are, she will remember." He nodded slowly. "Understood. Operation Witness continues?" The hologram paused. "Be careful, Commander. You carry the last human royal gene in the system. If they discover it too soon, they'll either worship you or destroy you." The transmission faded. The blue light vanished. Ethan stood alone again in the dark. He took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "Let's hope they remember before it's too late." Meanwhile, high above in her crystal chamber, Princess Velra couldn't sleep. The words of the janitor echoed in her mind. You will regret those words one day. She sat by her balcony, staring at the twin moons. Her reflection in the window looked different tonight, smaller, unsure. "Why did I let him bother me?" she muttered. "He's just a human." But something deep inside her disagreed. That look in his eyes, it wasn't the look of a servant. It was the look of someone who had seen too much. Someone who carried power he didn't show. Her personal assistant droid beeped softly. "Your Highness, an urgent message from the palace." Vale returned. "From my mother?" "Yes. Priority Alpha." A golden hologram formed in front of her. The image of Empress Lixara, tall and regal, her expression grave. "Daughter, a strange energy has been detected in your academy. A royal signature, ancient and human." Valra's eyes widened. "Human? That's impossible." The Empress looked away for a moment as if recalling a memory she didn't want to face. "Do not speak of this to anyone. Our scientists are investigating. But if you see anyone suspicious, report immediately." The hologram faded before Valra could reply. She sat there frozen. The word human echoed in her ears. Her heart began to race. Could it be him? Down in the tunnels, Ethan packed up the old terminal and hid the chip again under his sleeve. As he turned to leave, his droid beeped nervously. He looked back and saw a faint red light blinking in the shadows. A security drone hovered silently near the ceiling. It had been recording. Ethan cursed under his breath. He moved fast, pulling a pulse disruptor from his belt, something no janitor should have. A quick shot of blue light shattered the drone's lens, but not before it sent a partial transmission to the upper floors. In a distant security office, an alien guard frowned at his monitor. "Unauthorized communication in Sector 9, he said. "Sender identity, human worker, DIR 47. He hit the alert button. Somewhere above, a royal symbol flashed across every academy screen. Alert. Human activity detected. Lockdown in progress. Ethan stepped into the shadows, eyes cold and ready. "So it begins," he whispered. And somewhere far away in the Imperial Palace, the Empress of 1,000 worlds whispered to herself, "Impossible. Unless the prophecy is true." Morning light spilled across the Academy's glass towers like golden fire. Everything looked peaceful, yet tension burned quietly beneath the surface. Security drones hummed across corridors. Every door scanned identities twice. The royal crest flickered on screens. Lockdown, human worker under investigation. Ethan knew it was only a matter of time. He moved through the service tunnels calmly, carrying his mop and droid as if it were an ordinary day. His face gave nothing away. But inside, he could feel the silent countdown ticking. He reached the main elevator that led to the Crystal Hall. The doors opened with a soft chime. Guards waited there, tall, armored aliens with blue skin and cold silver eyes. Human worker number 47, one said sharply. Step forward for identification. Ethan obeyed without a word. The guard scanned his wrist tag, but the reader began to glitch. Lines of red code flashed on the holoscreen. Then, a blinding pulse of golden light erupted from the scanner, shooting across the room like lightning. The guard stumbled back. The scanner's voice spoke in a tone none of them had ever heard before. Royal seal recognized. Lineage, ancient protectorate. Authorization level, supreme. The room went silent. What? What does that mean? One guard whispered. The scanner's light faded, leaving Ethan standing calmly in the center. The alien guards looked at each other in disbelief. Only the royal family was supposed to trigger the protectorate code, and it hadn't been seen in 1,000 years. A voice echoed through the intercom. All units, bring the human to the Grand Chamber. The Empress demands his presence. When Ethan entered the Grand Chamber, every noble, officer, and scholar turned to stare. The air shimmered with tension. At the top of the long staircase sat Empress Lixara, wrapped in a flowing gown of black and silver. Her golden crown glowed faintly as she studied the man before her. Beside her stood Princess Velra, trying to hide her confusion behind a mask of royal calm. But her heart was racing, and it was him, the janitor she mocked. The Empress's voice rang clear. Human, kneel. Ethan looked up. Why? Gasps echoed. No one had ever questioned the Empress before. Lixara's eyes narrowed. Do you know who you stand before? Ethan met her gaze without flinching. Do you? The Empress froze. Something in his tone, familiar, powerful, made her heart tremble. For a moment, she saw not a servant but a shadow of someone from her own childhood stories. Identify yourself, she demanded. Ethan lifted his wrist, showing the faint golden mark that shimmered beneath his skin. The light pulsed again, spreading across the floor, igniting the ancient symbols carved into the marble. The chamber filled with the sound of awakening systems, machines older than the Empire itself. A deep mechanical voice emerged from the throne's console. Protectorate DNA match confirmed. Subject Ethan of Earth. Rank, Commander Human Guardian Fleet. Status, last of the ancient protectors. The nobles gasped. Velra stepped back, her wings trembling. No, that can't be true. The Empress rose slowly, her expression unreadable. You dare wear that mark? She said softly. You dare claim the title that once ruled over my ancestors? Ethan's eyes were calm. I don't claim it. It claims me. For a moment everything was silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then without warning, one of the guards raised his weapon. He's lying, the guard shouted. He's a spy. But before he could fire, the golden mark on Ethan's wrist flared, and the weapon melted in the guard's hand. Energy rippled outward, throwing the soldiers back like leaves in a storm. Ethan didn't move. The golden light surrounded him like armor made of sunlight. Gasps turned into whispers, fear mixed with awe. Velra stared at him, this man she once mocked, glowing with ancient power. He looked back at her, not with anger but with quiet disappointment. I told you, he said softly. You'd regret your words one day. The Empress descended the steps, her eyes never leaving him. She stopped a few feet away. If this is true, she said slowly, then the stories were right. The protectors didn't die. They hid. Ethan nodded once, until now. She stood silent for a long moment, then turned toward her daughter. Velra, she said quietly. Bow before him. The princess froze. Mother? Do as I say. Ethan raised a hand gently. No need. Respect isn't something you order, Your Majesty. It's something you earn. He turned and walked toward the door as every noble in the chamber stared in stunned silence. Behind him, the Empress whispered to herself, half in awe, half in fear, the protector has returned, and the balance has shifted. The twin suns sank low behind the palace towers, painting the horizon in shades of crimson and gold. The grand chamber was empty now, but whispers of what had happened that morning still echoed through every hall. A human had awakened the protectorate code, guards whispered. Servants trembled. And the royal family's honor, once unquestioned, now shook like glass on the edge of breaking. Princess Viola sat alone in her chamber, her wings folded tight. Her reflection in the mirror looked different tonight. Her proud violet eyes now carried doubt. The image of Ethan standing calm before her mother burned inside her mind. How could a janitor glow with the power of legends? A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. The royal intercom came to life. Princess Valeria, said the palace AI. The Empress summons you and the human to the throne hall, immediately. Her heart jumped. Together? Yes, Your Highness. Together. The throne hall was vast and dark, lit only by pillars of blue flame. The Empress sat on her high seat, silent and still, her expression unreadable. 2 royal guards stood behind her, motionless like statues. Ethan entered first. His gray uniform was the same, but now it carried quiet authority. He stopped before the throne and bowed his head slightly, not in submission, but in respect. Valeria entered behind him. Unsure of her place, was she the princess? Or just another student who had mocked something she didn't understand? The Empress's eyes studied Ethan for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than usual, almost human. Do you know what your appearance means to us? Ethan's tone was calm. It means your empire remembers its debt. Her gaze sharpened. You speak as if you were there. I was not, he replied, but my bloodline was. The Empress rose. The hall's blue firelight reflected off her crown, casting long shadows across the marble floor. She walked down the steps slowly, each movement deliberate, royal, but there was something heavy in her posture. Guilt, perhaps. Our archives told us stories of humans once called protectors, she said. Your people fought for us when our kind faced extinction, but after the war ended, our ancestors erased your names. Ethan said nothing. His silence was louder than anger. Valra's breath caught. Why would they do that? Her mother turned to her. Because they feared the truth, child. The humans were too strong, too noble, too human. Ethan lifted his wrist again. The golden mark shimmered faintly in the dim light. You erased our history, but you couldn't erase our code. The blood remembers what the mind forgets. The Empress stopped before him. She looked up into his eyes, searching for something familiar. There was once a human commander who saved my grandmother's ship at the cost of his own fleet. They called him the Guardian of Stars. Ethan's gaze softened. That was my ancestor. A wave of silence swept through the chamber. For a long moment, the Empress said nothing. Then she turned to the guards. Leave us. The guards bowed and left quietly, leaving only the 3 of them in the hall. Lixara's voice dropped to a whisper. When the code flared, I felt it in my bones. Our bloodlines are bound, Commander. The Protectorate was not just an alliance, it was family. You are the descendant of the Guardian who swore an eternal oath to my house. Ethan met her eyes. Then why enslave my people? The Empress looked away, shame flickering across her face. Time changes hearts. Power changes truth. We built our empire on the ashes of your sacrifice, and when we rose, we forgot who gave us the sky. Her voice cracked slightly at the end, a sound no one in the empire had ever heard from her. Ethan's eyes softened. Then remember now. The Empress straightened, wiping away the weakness as quickly as it came. Her voice regained its command. From this moment, you are not a worker. You are the guardian of the throne. The ancient title of your line is restored. The royal crest on her chest pulsed, responding to the code in Ethan's veins. Golden light spread across the floor, weaving their symbols together, hers and his, until the hall glowed like dawn. Valra stared, awestruck. Her mother turned to her, her tone low but firm. Valra, kneel. The princess hesitated, torn between pride and awe. Her throat felt tight. Slowly, she bent one knee and lowered her head. The Empress whispered, half to her, half to the universe itself. Bow before the one your ancestors betrayed. Ethan stepped forward, gently lifting Valra's chin. His voice was calm, warm, and steady. Rise, princess. I seek no throne, only truth. The Empress watched, eyes filled with memory and regret. In the silence that followed, the blue flames around them shifted, turning gold for the first time in centuries. And somewhere deep within the palace, old systems stirred awake, recognizing the code of their long-lost guardian. The next morning, the palace sky shimmered under the twin suns, but beneath its glow, the air felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Rumors of the human guardian had spread across the empire. Some nobles called him a fraud. Others whispered he was a living prophecy. Princess Velra walked through the marble corridors, her thoughts restless. Every step echoed with doubt. All her life she had believed humans were lesser, fragile creatures meant for labor. But the night before had shattered that illusion. She reached the Hall of Memories, a vast chamber filled with crystal pillars that stored the Empire's history. Ethan stood there waiting beside a console covered in dust. He looked different now, not by clothing, but by presence. Calm, centered, almost regal. "You came," he said softly. Velra crossed her arms. "I had to see if you're truly what you claim." Ethan smiled faintly. "I don't claim anything. The truth speaks for itself." He touched the console and the crystals flared to life. The holograms spun around them, scenes from 1,000 years ago replaying like ghosts in light. They saw massive warships burning across alien skies. Human fleets stood beside alien ones protecting a world that shimmered blue and green. Velra's homeworld, Veronis. The Empress's ancestors appeared on the holograms, desperate, wounded, their cities falling. And beside them, human soldiers fought, died, and shielded them without hesitation. One figure in particular drew Velra's gaze, a man in battle armor bearing the same golden mark Ethan had shown. His voice echoed from the projection. "As long as one human breathes, your stars will not fall." Velra's chest tightened. "Who is that?" "My ancestor," Ethan said quietly. "Commander Alaric of Earth, the first guardian of the throne." The hologram continued. The humans' final act was a sacrifice, detonating their main fleet to destroy the invading swarm that threatened the galaxy. The explosion wiped out millions, saving the alien empire at the cost of nearly all human life. When the light faded, Velra stood frozen. We built our history on this?" Ethan nodded. "Your ancestors promised to remember, but when the humans were gone, they rewrote everything. They turned us from saviors into servants." Velra took a step back, shaking her head. "That can't be true. My mother, my teachers, they said humans were weak, primitive." "Lies told often enough become truth," Ethan interrupted gently. "But lies cannot erase bloodlines. My people remembered through code, not words." He pressed a sequence into the console, and a final hologram appeared, an ancient treaty. 2 signatures glowed in gold, Empress Lixera I and Commander Alaric. "The House of Verones and the Human Protectorate are one," the voice of the ancient Empress declared. "Our bloodlines will guard each other in life and beyond." The room fell silent. Only the hum of the crystals filled the air. Velra's eyes glistened. "All this time, my people honored a lie." Ethan turned toward her. "Now you know why I stayed silent. I didn't want revenge, Princess. I wanted remembrance." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time she didn't see a janitor. She saw the legacy of 1,000 forgotten heroes standing before her. "But why hide who you are?" she asked. "Why live as a worker when you could have taken the throne by force?" Ethan's voice softened. "Because power taken in anger only repeats the same mistakes. I needed them, and you, to see the truth, not fear it." Velra stepped closer. "Then let me help you. The Empire must know this." He shook his head. "Not yet. Your mother is wise, but her court is filled with those who would rather kill the truth than face it." A soft alarm tone echoed through the chamber. Ethan's droid beeped urgently. A security breach. He frowned. "They found us." Before Velra could ask, the door burst open. A squad of royal enforcers stormed in, their weapons glowing blue. The captain barked. "By order of the council, the human is to be detained." Ethan raised his hands slowly, calm even in danger. "You can't arrest the past," he said quietly. But the guards didn't listen. They fired, and the blast hit the crystal archives. The holograms shattered like glass, filling the hall with sparks of dying light. Velra screamed, "Stop! You don't know what you're doing." Ethan grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a pillar as the ceiling shook. "They do," he said grimly. "They're trying to bury history again." As smoke filled the room, Velra looked at him with new fire in her eyes. "Then we make them remember." Ethan met her gaze and nodded. "Together." Outside, the Empire's golden sky began to dim, as if the universe itself was listening. Smoke curled through the golden skies of Veronis. The palace alarms wailed like dying stars echoing across the floating towers. The truth, The buried history of humans Kron had spread. Some said the Empress was harboring a false savior. Others whispered that the Protectorate bloodline had truly returned. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the alien empire was divided. Deep inside the damaged Hall of Memories, Ethan stood among shattered crystals and flickering light. Beside him, Princess Velra clutched her arm, her elegant robe torn by the earlier blast. "They're turning on us," she said breathlessly. "Half the palace guards think you're a rebel leader." Ethan's calm eyes scanned the smoke. "They're afraid. Fear always moves faster than truth." He helped her to her feet. "We can't stay here. They'll seal the tunnels." They ran through the narrow corridors, past walls that once glowed with peace but now pulsed with red warning lights. Outside, they could hear the clash of soldiers, alien against alien, the Empire eating itself alive. In the throne room, Empress Lixara watched the chaos unfold on her hollow screens. Explosions lit up the capital below. Her advisors shouted over one another, panic, anger, betrayal. "Your Majesty, the Council demands you arrest the human before the rebellion spreads." "No, the lower houses are already kneeling to him. They call him the Golden Guardian. We must destroy him now or lose everything." Lixara's patience broke. "Enough." Her voice shook the chamber. The screens flickered under the force of her power. She turned to her guard captain. "Where is my daughter?" "Missing, Your Majesty, with the human." For the first time, fear crossed the Empress's eyes. Not fear for her crown, but for her child. Meanwhile, in the underground flight bay, Ethan and Velra reached an old hangar buried beneath the academy. Dust-covered ships rested in silence, forgotten relics of wars long past. Velra looked around. "These ships are ancient," Ethan smiled faintly. "Ancient doesn't mean weak. Some things age with purpose." He placed his palm on the side of one ship, a sleek silver vessel marked with faded human symbols. The hull glowed faintly beneath his touch, recognizing his blood code. "Protectorate vessel online," said an old mechanical voice. "Welcome back, Commander Ethan." Velra's eyes widened. "It knows you." "Because it remembers," Ethan said quietly. "Machines don't lie. They just wait." He turned to her. "Once we launch, your mother will have to make a choice, and truth or throne." Before she could reply, the hangar doors burst open. A squad of elite nobles stepped in, rebels wearing royal armor marked with crimson crests. Their leader, Lord Chiron, raised his plasma staff. "Surrender, human!" he shouted. "You've infected our Empress with your lies." Ethan stepped forward, calm as a statue. "Lies? Then why does your own history fear to face me?" Chiron sneered. "Because your kind was meant to serve." He swung his staff, sending a burst of energy toward Ethan, but Ethan raised his hand and golden light exploded from his wrist. The blast split in two, wrapping harmlessly around him like wind around a mountain. Velra gasped. "Ethan!" He moved like lightning, grabbing Chiron's staff mid-swing. The golden mark on his wrist flared, turning the weapon into molten metal. He looked into Kieran's shocked eyes. "Your empire forgot who defended your stars," Ethan said coldly. "But I remember." Kieran fell back, trembling. "What are you?" "Human," Ethan said simply. "The word your ancestors once said with pride." Blaster fire erupted. Velra ducked behind a column as Ethan shielded her, deflecting shots with energy ripples that curved like golden waves. One beam hit a fuel conduit, triggering a fiery explosion. The rebels scattered, screaming as the ceiling began to collapse. Ethan pulled Velra toward the ship. "Go!" They jumped aboard as fire engulfed the hangar. The ship's engines roared back to life, blue light bursting through the smoke. As they shot into the sky, Velra looked down through the viewport, the once proud capital now burning. Filled with chaos and civil war, her voice trembled. "You didn't just wake history, Ethan. You broke it." He didn't look away from the horizon. Sometimes history needs to break before it can heal. The ship cut through the clouds, leaving behind a trail of gold light. In the distance, the Empress stood on her balcony, watching the streak vanish into the stars. Her voice was quiet, filled with both sorrow and awe. "Guardian of humans, and now the guardian of my daughter." She turned to her generals. "Prepare the royal fleet. We're bringing them home, alive." The Empire's fate now rested between mother, daughter, and the last human who remembered the truth. The skies of Veronis burned like a dying sun. Flames from the rebellion lit up the horizon, turning the floating cities into glowing islands of war. The Empire, once proud and unshakable, was now tearing itself apart. From above, Ethan's ship cut through the clouds like a silver blade. Inside, alarms blinked red, but the cockpit remained calm. Princess Velra sat beside him, staring out the window as the royal capital smoldered below. "They're destroying everything," she whispered. "All because they fear you." Ethan's voice was steady. "No, they fear the truth I carry. But fear fades. Truth doesn't." She looked at him, at the quiet power in his face, the golden mark still glowing faintly under his sleeve. "You could have ruled them. You could have taken the throne by force." Ethan gave a small smile. "I didn't come to rule. I came to remind." Down below in the grand plaza of stars, thousands gathered in panic. Rebel soldiers marched through the streets shouting their creed. "Purge the human. Protect the bloodline." But others, students, workers, and common citizens, shouted back, "Honor the guardian. Honor the truth." It was no longer just a rebellion. It was the rebirth of history. High above the plaza, the royal flagship descended through the smoke, the Empress's own vessel, wrapped in shields of violet light. When it landed, silence swept across the crowd. The doors opened. Empress Lixara emerged, her long cloak torn by battle winds, her crown dimmed but unbroken. She looked at the burning city, then at the sky where Ethan's ship approached. Her voice carried through every speaker in the capital. "My people, the truth we buried has returned. The guardian of our ancestors stands among us once more." The crowd murmured, confused, afraid. Then, from the clouds, Ethan's ship descended. He stepped out, no armor, no weapon, only calm strength. The golden symbol on his wrist pulsed with soft light, like a heartbeat echoing through the world. Velra followed him, her silver hair flowing in the smoke. When the people saw her, the princess who had once mocked a human, now standing beside one, the noise died completely. Ethan looked around at the sea of faces, alien and human, soldier and servant, all watching. He raised his voice, firm but gentle. "Your empire was built by forgetting. Mine was destroyed by trusting. But today we end both lies." A rebel general stepped forward, shouting, "You dare speak like an emperor? You are nothing but dirt under our boots." Ethan's gaze turned toward him. "Then why does the ground tremble when I stand upon it?" Before the general could reply, the earth beneath them pulsed. Golden light burst through the marble, forming ancient patterns. The protectorate seal flared to life, surrounding the plaza with radiance. The empress stepped forward, her voice low but unshaken. "This power does not belong to one race, but to both. My ancestors stole its honor. My daughter returned it." She turned to Velra, then slowly faced Ethan. "And now I return what was stolen." In front of the entire empire, the empress bowed. Gasps filled the plaza. No one had ever seen their ruler kneel. Velra's throat tightened as she watched her mother, proud, fierce Lixara, lowering herself before the man once called janitor. "Mother," she whispered. The empress's voice trembled but did not break. "You showed me who we were meant to be, human. Not masters, not slaves, but equals bound by blood and sacrifice." Ethan looked at her, then gently lifted her chin. "Rise, Empress. I seek no throne, only balance." He turned toward the soldiers. "The past doesn't need vengeance. It needs memory." The golden seal pulsed brighter, reaching into the skies. The flames around the capital began to dim as if the planet itself exhaled. One by one, soldiers and citizens dropped to their knees, not out of fear, but reverence. Velra stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. "All this time, we thought we were gods." Ethan smiled faintly. "No, you were just lost, and now you've found your way home." She looked up at him, her violet eyes soft with respect. "Then let me walk beside you, and as my people learn to remember." Ethan nodded. Together then, a new dawn. As the twin suns rose again over Veronis, light spread across the ruined city, golden and pure. The rebellion faded, peace returning like slow morning wind. And at the heart of it all, a human stood, the last protector, the forgotten guardian, watching an empire finally bow. Not in defeat, but in understanding. "We mocked him for being human," Velra's voice whispered over the final scene. "But it was humanity that saved us, and once again, fade out under twin suns, the legend reborn."